Falling in Love with Command Line and GitHub CLI with Andrea Griffiths.
Hi, I'm Andrea Griffiths at Ala Colombia on Twitter, Andrea Griffiths 11. I am a community support human at GitHub, and what that means is I have the privilege of supporting our users, all of you hopefully, via our community forum, which if you haven't checked out, I encourage you to do it. It's at github.community. It's a great place to learn new things. And also via Twitter, so from using the GitHub help handle. So keep that in mind next time. We unfortunately might even have an incident and something's down and you're angry tweeting something. This is the face that will be reading all those messages and replying and trying to help. But in all seriousness, it's a super honor to be here today. I had the pleasure of meeting Brian at the Flashback conference, and I also like to thank him for everything he does for the Central Florida tech community. These are very much labors of love. So community organizing, it's not easy. Again, thank you all for being here. It's been a super goal of mine to do a presentation that included sharing my terminal without pre-recorded content because I get a little nervous when I'm typing live. So I am very appreciative of the opportunity to share that attempt at getting that done today. So let's get started. As you can see, the topic of our talk today, it's a little bit cheesy, but hey, a little cheese is not bad, especially in this times of uncertainty. It's Love is Blind. And what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be hopefully learning to maybe like, maybe even love what we can see as far as the command line. So with this talk, I would love to share my journey from being absolutely scared and intimidated by that blinking prompt. I was terrified and a reluctant terminal user, like Brad mentioned earlier. I could very much fit in that description. I broke so many things, deleted so many files that I shouldn't have. And it took me a long time to realize that I didn't need to memorize every single command to be productive. Just being able to understand what was sort of under the hood, how things work when you execute a command, what's actually happening. That helped me start to actually like working on the terminal and love to see love what I couldn't see. So I'm, of course, an expert only on my own experiences. I'm going to share some things that I use every day. Some of them might be super basic to all of you, or some of you, some might be new concepts. Either way, I really hope that someone takes something away from our time together, that everyone takes a little bit. I know definitely I will, because learning by doing is the best way to learn. So what are we going to talk about? Let's get into it. We're going to talk about why you should even care. Why in this world of beautiful graphic interfaces, you should be concerned with learning how to use emulators and learning how to use the terminal. We're going to share my super basic Bash profile, and maybe you can pick up a trick or two from there. And then I'm excited to be able to share about GitHub CLI, which is a product that's been open sourced but engineered by GitHub, and it's bringing a lot more functionality to the way you manipulate and use all your data from GitHub. So super excited to be able to share that. So let's get started. Well, let's talk a little bit about why you should care. As I mentioned, yeah, GUIs are beautiful. I work for a company whose business was started first and foremost to bring a solution to the problem of collaboration using Git. I think the company became extra successful in part because, yes, of course, it brought that additional functionality to include having a very sleek user interface. I think our users love that. I personally love that. So that's part of the reason why I think it's become such a big, great product. So you already have this awesome interface that you can interact with and help your code and your project. So why would you even care? Why would you even use the command line? The truth is that regardless of the type of developer you are, whether you work on documentation, if you are a project manager, if you are someone who's passionate about sharing your knowledge and you're looking into contributing to open source projects, maybe there's something that you've been eyeing and you're not sure how to get started. Sometimes these repositories can be quite overwhelming looking at them from the GUI interface. So this is going to help you. Having a working understanding of the way you can work in the command line, of command line syntax, it will eventually help you work more efficiently. There's obviously a learning curve, but that's why we're here today. So some of the advantages of using CLI, of course, you're going to use less compute and resources, use a lot less than GUIs. You notice if you're updated anything, your computer sounds like it's going to take offline when you have multiple tabs open. So that is one great advantage. Understanding and using the power of your CLI interface is going to bring you a level of modularity and flexibility that is very, very hard to accomplish using GUIs only. So you are the specialist. You get to know and learn how to use these tools, and then you stack them and you use them in the way that they're the most convenient and the most efficient for you. That philosophy comes some sort of from the Unix philosophy as well, and I'm going to talk a tiny bit about that because I'm a history geek. And so just keep in mind, you get a lot of modularity and flexibility, and you gain speed. When you work on the command line over years, you're going to pick up more and more tricks. You're going to learn to navigate things quicker, and the command line is not really going to change as much. Sure, there might be new commands that are introduced, but the original commands would probably remain the same. You're going to have that same command structure that you're familiar with. You'll have a command that is going to include a command, an option, and some arguments. So it's really cool that you can have some continuity in your learning there. So let's talk a little bit about the Unix philosophy, and I have to, because again, I'm a history geek. So I think it's super important to understand the principle behind many of the programs that we use every day, including emulators, including Bash. So that principle is often called the Unix philosophy, and some of you might be familiar with it, but for those of you who are not, it's, in a sense, this philosophy can be narrowed down to saying that you should create tools that do one thing and do it well. So tools shouldn't try to accomplish too much. If you're a history geek, I suggest taking a look at videos by Professor Brian Kernighan, Ken Thompson, Rob Pike. They have a series on YouTube. There's a couple of interviews I'll be happy to share with my notes that are amazing. They do a beautiful job explaining the history of Unix and the history of some of our most used tools like grep. So back to the Unix philosophy, one of the most popular definitions, and the one that maybe you're the most familiar with, is that of Doug McRory's from Bell Labs, and that's the Lego block definition. Basically, that at the foundation of programs, the design should be simple. You should be able to build more complex things by stacking, like Legos, from simple ones. So this is very useful, understanding sort of this philosophy and why things work the way they do. Understanding that using programs separately or in a combination to get the job done, rather than doing it by hand, using monolithic subsystems or using one-time special purpose programs. And you might be wondering, why is this even important still? And it will continue to be relevant. I don't see this changing. I think that people are adapting the way they work, but we're always going to write programs that handle text streams. That is the universal interface. The Unix philosophy, this methodology, is very supportive of that chip-to-learn methodology that most companies have now adopted, including my own. So you can design, you can try early. And then again, you have the flexibility to combine these tools in a way that you, as specialists, decide to get the most out of what you have. So with this, I would like to jump into sharing my terminal. And I hope I get this right. And I'm able to, oh, excuse me. And give me just a second. I got to exit full screen mode here. There we go. So I try and make this as big and as hopefully readable, friendly as possible. So I apologize if it's a little overwhelming on your screen. But I want to share a couple of the things that I do. I'm going to use Bash for this. I have a Mac, and I'm the only user on this machine. So you notice I'm doing a lot of things at root. And yeah, we'll take a look at this demo, and I'll share a couple of things, and hopefully it's a couple of tricks that you can incorporate into your own workflows. So I started to use the command line out of necessity. I needed to understand better what was going on. I'm very much a visual learner. And for me, it's important to set up an environment that's appealing visually. So you can see that I have the most simplistic prompt in history, and that is just my username. And I have some emojis on it because I liked it. That's one thing that I did by editing my Bash profile. Another one that it really saved my sanity and it's super simple, but hey, maybe someone needs to hear this. It's to turn off that alert bell. You can do that from the advanced preference menu. I used to hate hearing that loud bang every time you did something you weren't supposed to. So let's take a look at my Bash profile, and I'm going to use Vim as my text editor here, since we don't really need to do anything too specialized for now. So I want to share with you today what is like the bare bones of my Bash profile. This is mostly what I use every day. For the amount of work I do on the terminal, I have to browse through some source code. Now with GitHub CLI, I'm doing a lot more interactions using GitHub, but for the most part, this is plenty. So you can see how I have my little handy emojis here, and you can add that to your prompt if you like to. It's super simple, just using the caret command and spacebar brings up that symbols, and you can edit it. Of course, you can use the backslash option and add date, time, or as many other options. If you share a machine with someone, then it can be useful to have some more things incorporated on that prompt, just to see where you are. Another thing I'd like to share with you today is, of course, aliases. The use of aliases is amazing. I only have a few here. This is something that I wanted to keep very basic, and things that I use every single day, and that is, of course, a clear. And I have alias set here, and then I also alias the history, because sometimes hitting the up arrow looking for that one command can get pretty tedious. So I taken advantage of the alias and have it right there. And then also I have a command here that's going to alias a process to show me my memory usage. And this is something I picked up actually from a blog post from the creator of a tool that I'm going to share with you next. And it's super simple, but very useful. Then you can see that I also have an alias for a GitHub CLI or GH. And later on, when we demo that, that will make a lot more sense. So of course, we are in Vim. You have to be on insert mode if you want to make any changes. Now we're going to do our first challenge of the day. There's not that many really, but we're going to exit Vim hopefully and get back and look at some other things. So just always remember to hit the escape key, then colon. If you want to make any changes, right, quit, bang, and that's going to take you out. So since we didn't really alter the way the Bash profile is, I don't need to open a new terminal window. Everything should work exactly how it was. So I want to share with you that mem usage alias because I find it really useful. So this is going to show you all of the active processes that are running on my computer. So that way you don't have to remember all of the PS options, which can be kind of tedious as well. So this is something that will definitely help you if you have a hung process or if you're just trying to figure out exactly what's running. And you can see I have a lot of junk happening right now. So aliasing clear, again, amazing because you can just empty your screen like that. Another thing I'd like to share with you today, and it's going to be reference to killing unresponsive processes, basically. I used to have a ton of tabs open, as I mentioned before. I used to have a lot of things running at the same time, and that sometimes will just create a confusion. I guess in my system just kind of didn't know how to stop spinning. So learning to kill unresponsive processes was something that was very useful for me. And you can do that super simply in using 3 simple commands and some piping. So let's take a look again at that man usage alias. Let's see. So you can see how I have a list of all these commands here. And I'm able to see the amount of data that is taken. It's going to show me what's using them, what's memory. And then I'm able to kill those particular processes very simply by using 3 commands, as I mentioned. So the top command to start is very useful because it's going to show you all the running processes. So just like the mem usage shortcut that I had before, but with the distinctive difference and advantage that this actually updates live. So you can see how the numbers are changing. It's updating its display every few seconds, and it's showing you in a very visually simplistic way what's running the most memory usage, what's running your most, taking the most resources. This is very cool because you can edit the way that it's displayed to you. You can sort it by pressing M, so to sort by memory usage, or you can reverse the output. So there's a couple of things that you can do with top that are very, very useful. Back to killing the processes when they're stuck. One thing I love about the top command is it's going to display that process ID number. So you can sort of see here how I have this number that's going to be directly linked to this process. And now I know exactly what I want to terminate. So to exit at the top, all I have to do is Q, and now I am back to my prompt. So I want to share a shortcut that I learned about not long ago, to be honest. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that because the typing nerds are real. So you can see here how this is not a very complicated command, but it's one that uses piping and grep in a way that is to your advantage. So with PS, you're going to tell the system, I want you to show me the list of all the processes that are running or for all users in my machine right now. Then I want to pipe that through grep. And I'm going to tell it what type of processes I would like to cancel. So if, say, I have a lot of Perl programs running in the background, then I can just group all of those here. Just a simple trick. You just gotta use the initial of the type of process, put it in brackets. Whether it's MySQL, regardless of the type of process, that's one way to just use that single expression to kill the process. So the outline is gonna ask you to print the second line. And as you saw, when we take a look at the output of the top command, that's gonna be your process ID field. So then you are left with something like kill, and I don't have any specific program running, so it's not gonna work. But basically, the output of this line would be something like kill 1234, which will be the command, the process ID that you want to cancel. So grabbing the output of that command to fit the next, and then using awk to filter that pattern directed scanning. It's super useful. It gives you the output of the command and it kills the process quickly. So very useful to understand piping, making the output of one command fit into the next. And then a really cool little tool, awk, although I'll be sharing another one that I prefer even more when you're looking at searching through source code next. So when you pipe in these commands, that filter output, again, fits from one to the next. And you can kill any processes like this. All you have to do is just change the name of the process. So I'll be happy to share those commands later as well. Another thing that I use the bash for, and this is going to sound really, really silly, but it's actually very useful, at least for me. The say command on the Mac, I use that a lot. And it's especially useful for me when I'm preparing for a presentation or when I have something that I'm struggling with concepts to memorize. English is my second language, and sometimes some things, the pronunciations are a bit difficult. So I use the say command quite a bit, and you might have not heard that, but basically is going to output that into voice. I didn't know, but I just recently learned that you can actually select who speaks to you when you are using the say command. So I love that. That's super useful for me. It helps me understand pronunciations better, and it helps me actually memorize things when I'm looking at different pronunciations. So again, may the fourth be with all of you. So that's it for a quick look at my bash. I'm gonna go ahead and close out this terminal because I want to share with you now a tool that I just learned about a couple of months ago, and it's sort of an oldie but goodie, but it's a very active project, and the maintainers of them actually keep up with it. So you might have heard of it, you might have used it, but it's called ACK. And what is ACK? You might wonder. So ACK is a grep-like source code search tool. So you can spend a ton of time learning how to write bash scripts, and you should, because it's important to understand how that works too. But if you're only using this to look through source code, learning ACK is going to save you a ton of time. Three of the things that I like the absolute most about ACK is that it works the same across all platforms. And this is really cool because I've been trying to make an effort to use VirtualBox to learn more about Linux directories and the way that Ubuntu works, etc. And so having a tool that I like to browse through source code that works the same regardless of the environment is amazing. ACK uses for regular expression syntax, And it's, again, super useful when you're searching through large repositories. So when you're taking a look at perhaps open source projects that have thousands and thousands of files. So this tool was created specifically to look for particular strings inside a file, and it finds them within the source code. It was optimized to ignore certain files, like VCS directories. So the really cool thing about the tool is that it also allows you to define what files you want to ignore. So you have the possibility of creating a .rc file and add all the types of files that you want to ignore when you're doing the searches through source code. So you don't have to keep defining your types over and over again. So you can install app. For Mac, I use Homebrew to install it. I already have it on my machine. But if you want to take a look at installation for your particular machine, you can check it out at beyondgraph.com. So I'm going to bring back my terminal now, and we're just going to take a look at some of the things that you can do with app that I personally have found useful. So again, when you use the find command, you're searching through everything, you're searching through search code, and you can do a lot of things like different scripts to sort of identify and pull the specific data that you're concerned about. So as I mentioned before, I already installed app on my machine using Homebrew, but I'm going to go ahead and navigate into a directory that I previously cloned into my machine, and that is the Electron project. So taking a look at the Electron project, you can see how there are different types of files. There's a lot happening. Let's say I wanted to understand better how many total files are within this project. So I can use find, which most of us do that, and then I want to go ahead and type it and then ask to count it and list it. And you can see that it's giving me a result of 2,241 files. So that's a lot of files to parse through when you're looking for specifics. Now, let's try and take a look at performing that same search by using ACK. So when I use ACK, I don't have any preset, predefined file types that I want to exclude here, besides the ones that come with the program. So automatically, without file selection, ACK is going to search through the regular files, those that are not excluded by the ignored there, or that I've specified, like I mentioned on the .rc file, which I don't have anything special there. But you can see how it's already narrowed down the total of files here. By default, it's ignore backup files, it's ignore code dumps, it's ignore version control directories like .sdn and .git. So without doing anything, adding every param or having a specific .rc file, I'm already finding a lot of usefulness in this tool. Again, particularly useful if you're looking for projects. You can, let's say someone who's interested in maybe contributing, I don't know, with bugs or contributing with language translation, since I speak more than one language. And I want to do a quick search inside this project to see what I can learn. So you can see how it's gonna, when I use grep to take a look at these different files, the output is gonna show the top line, what actually is relevant, and then a ton of errors, which is telling me, you know, these are all directories. So that's not very useful when I want to see some information as far as how to contribute. So let's say I, for instance, then I use the same search, but I'm going to use ACK versus grep. So same thing, ACK in the word language, and excuse my very slow typing. And now you're seeing a ton more results, and you see how the actual output comes highlighted, which is amazing. Another cool thing about ACK, it allows for customization of the colors that it uses when it's presenting the file. And that is very neat because there is tons of combination of colors. I think it's /colors that gives you the different combinations of colors that you can set up for your outputs. So that's very useful when you're looking at different file types. You can narrow down searches with ACK even more by using -n, so that you're asking for specifics, and -w. So if you want to look for bugs, you can just narrow it down that way. Let's say I wanted to take a look and see what comes up as far as bugs in this Electron project. So specific for the string bug, and that quickly brings me up to the contributing file, and it tells me exactly where I can find information about contributing for them. So Even if you're only using app just to take a look at source code, to work with programming code in a way that is more visually appealing and easier to parse, at least visually, I think that you will find it useful. Of course, there is a ton of grep-like tools, and you should be able to choose the one that makes you the happiest. The creator of that project, of the app project, actually has a really cool table on their website, beyondgrep.com/feature-comparison. And what he's done is he's grabbed the most popular grep-like tools and done a side-by-side comparison, sort of showing the strengths and weaknesses of all of them. So that's kind of unique, and I welcome everyone to take a look at that site. So I'm going to go ahead and kill that back to my root repository here, X out of my terminal, and apologies if I'm talking really fast, but I see that we're running out of time, and I want to get to the most exciting thing, which is GitHub CLI. I am super excited to be able to share this with you today. I have to give a huge shout out, a short one, to the engineering team and project managers of this team. This is an amazing team, and I'm excited for what the future holds. So GH, I'll be referring to it moving forward, GitHub CLI. It's a new project, it's open source, and it was released a few months ago. So you might wonder why create another CLI. It seems like every project has their own CLI now. But specifically to GitHub, why would GitHub invest into creating another CLI when something like Hub existed? To be honest, 100%, that was my first thought. That was before I had the opportunity to take a look at it and actually use it. And now I totally get it. And a shout out to Steve for showing it to me to begin with. So many of you might have used Hub as a command line tool. And yes, both tools are going to bring your GitHub to the terminal. But whereas Hub is going to behave as a proxy to Git, GH is a standalone tool. So quickly, we're going to take a look at the functionalities of GH and the things that you can do to interact with your repositories or with other open source projects or any projects you're looking to contribute to. And then I am excited that I have a few teasers of things that are coming up on the pipeline for the project. So you can install GitHub CLI today on macOS, Linux, or Windows. It's very similar, very familiar CLI anatomy. You see that a command structure is a command, GH, command, subcommand. It was created, of course, to provide a more intuitive, a more simple interface and experience so that you're working exactly where you already are. You don't have to switch context. I just recently saw this ad, I think like those masterclass ads are everywhere, and it's this writer saying that the enemy of writing is not procrastination, but interruption. Like, it made me think of this, because when you're having to switch back and forth between a GUI and your terminal, or it's having to switch context mentally, that can actually interfere with your thought process. At least it does with mine. So it's aimed at stopping that interruption. Some of the highlight features: you can filter issues by labels, you can check out pull requests from contributors, you can view the status of your own pull requests. And I want to get into sort of an overview so that we can quickly get to the demo. So as you can see, if you work with issues, this is a tool for you. And most of us have to work with issues at one point or the other. So you can quickly access the issues. You can check the status list you create. You can filter by flags. And really cool that you can actually use those flags to filter lists for your specific use cases. So really cool tool, ideal for maintainers that want to quickly identify the issues that either they want to assign to somebody else or that they want to take on themselves. As far as pull requests, you can check the status, you can list them, you can view them. You can also use an alias, like I showed you earlier on my bash profile, to create a shortcut so that you're only getting the pull requests that have been assigned to you. And I'll share that with you in a moment. And then repo manipulation, you can clone, create it, fork it, and view it. As of the last release, you have the opportunity actually to open an internet or a browser window directly from the terminal. That's one of the last updates. So we'll be able to take a look at that and look at GitHub CLI more in depth. So I want to go ahead and bring back my terminal so we can get right to the fun stuff. I want to say that I uninstalled it because I wanted to show everyone how quickly it is to install, but Homebrew might make a liar out of me. So I'm going to go ahead and use the command, and shout out to the Homebrew maintainers because they make this very easy. So you can see how it's actually a rather quick installation. Now, for more information on installing for your specific system, you can check out the website cli.github.com, and there you'll be able to see exactly what you can, how you can install it to your particular system. You can clone any repository using the owner/repo syntax or using the URL of the repository. So it's very simple. All you have to do is just gh clone, and as I mentioned, you can either do the owner syntax slash repo, and that's going to clone it directly into your machine. So I previously cloned a project into my machine for demonstration purposes. So we're going to go ahead and change directory and go there now. So I'm going to go into GitHub, and the project that I cloned is the Node project, the Node repo from the Node.js project, which is also another amazing open source community. So once I'm in here, I can use GH directly from where my repo directory is. So let's say I wanted to take a list of all the issues that are currently on the Node project or the Node repository. This is going to give me the result of the top 30 most recent issues. And you can see how it's also showing me the labels, and it's showing me how long ago were there any updates to it. So that's pretty cool. If you want to search for a specific label, so if you are looking to contribute, let's say you want to actually help out with bugs. So if you're looking to contribute that way, all you have to do is filter by label. And you do that by doing the same command, gh issue list. You just append / label. And then I think a node line they're called confirm bugs once they've been triaged. And click enter, and that's going to bring you only, I'm going to make this a little higher so you can see it better. That's going to bring you only the issues that have been assigned that specific label. You can do that, of course, for any labels. If you want to take a look at specific issues, using GH issue view, and let's say I have, for example, 28455. I apologize, I missed something here. I misspelled something. It was bound to happen. So that's going to populate that specific issue, which you can see as a juicy time zone bug. And that's going to bring it right here on your repository. The default behavior right now is you can view it on your terminal. But if you wanted to view this on the web, all you have to do is run the same command, gh issue view, and then the number, and then the flag just web. And that's going to automatically open a browser window with the issue. So that's sort of a unique and quick way to change context without interrupting your flows very much. So we can go ahead and close out of there and go back to the terminal. I want to take a look at now at the issues that are assigned for a specific user, and that's something that GH is very useful for. So inside my project, I am going to paste a command, but it's going to be -a for assignee, and then the username of the particular contributor user whom I'm looking for. And this is Anna, one of the core contributors to that project. And you can see how there are 2 issues that are specifically assigned to Anna. So now I have reduced a lot of the noise, a lot of the other different results, and I'm specifically focused on what I wanted to see. So super useful. Just overall looking at issues, if you use it for nothing else, I think it will definitely save you time. I want to go ahead and take a look at a project that I created to test PR manipulation to it. And so it's going to be just a test repo of mine, CLI-test, because I want to take a look at what you can do with pull requests. So here you can do the same thing. Let's clear my emulator real quick, but you can do the same thing. You can use GH issue list, and that's going to bring me up just this measly 6 issues that I created for this repository to be tested in. And you can see how the labels are shown. One of the things that the team is working on is having the ability to, when you create an issue right there from your terminal, add labels automatically. So that's also on the pipeline, which is very exciting. From here, you can configure, as of the last release, you can configure the text editor you want to use. And that's very simply done by using the config command. And then you set editor, and for this, we'll do them. This is fast and easy. And then now let's go ahead and create an issue so you can see how that works. So GH issue create, and that's going to start creating the issue. It's going to bring up the prompt for me to title it. So let's say I just say hello all. That's my title. And then it brings me to the next option where I can use E to launch Vim and go ahead and input anything that I want into that issue directly from the terminal. So as you can see, this is pre-populated, a lot of stuff happening, and that is because I have an issue template set up on this repository. GitHub actually has two very useful issue templates, but preset that you can use, the feature requests and one for reporting bugs. And then, of course, you have the option to customize them to your liking, so you can make them do anything you want. So I can insert here and make any changes I would like to this. And then when I am done, we're going to once again leave them, use escape, and then right click, and we're out. And so now I'm presented with the options to complete this issue creation. I can preview it in the browser, I can submit it, or I can cancel it. And let's go ahead and submit it. So now I have a new issue that I created directly from the terminal. One thing I like to also mention is that there's a really good documentation for this project. So if you wanted to look at other capabilities of the pull request as far as GH is concerned, you can use GH PR and then the flag help. And that's going to bring you up all the available commands. And this is, of course, updated as the project evolves and grows and more features are added on top of it. Another thing that I like to check is, remember how I had on my bash profile that alias that I had preset, and I'll go ahead and share it here. It's not going to do anything, but you can take a look and see how I ask the alias to save it. So when I use the word my PRs, it's going to deploy the command GH, and it's going to ask it to list them all that are the my username. So Andrea Griffiths 11. So within my project, I can just do my PRs, and I'm going to get as a response only the pull request from the repository that had been assigned to me. So this personally at work will save me a lot of time. And again, if I wanted to quickly take a look at that PR, and let's say I wanted to take a look at it actually by opening a browser, all I have to do is GH PR view. Remember the number of the PR I'm taking on. So let's look at number 5, and then the web flag. And I apologize, I think I have an extra space here somewhere. Okay, well, that's gonna open the particular window. I think at this point, I'm just skipping steps. So let me try and copy and paste it and see if we can do it. Perfect, so now we are opening the particular PR, and you can see it there, super easy. And if anyone can tell me what this is about, maybe I'll send you some swag, so drop that comment on the chat. What is Moncala? Anyway, so this is a little bit of just a teaser of the things that GitHub CLI can do for you. Since the last release, there's been a lot more capabilities added. As I showed, you can add the configuration for your preset text editor. Now you can configure GH to default to SSH. So you know the default protocol for Git is HTTPS, so that's actually very useful. You can autofill the body of a pull request from your commits using GHPR create-fill, and you can also generate shell completion files. So shell completion scripts for your commands. So there's a lot more to come when it comes to GitHub CLI. In the future, they're trying to provide a lot more scripting functionality. Dream of Dreams is compatible with GitHub Enterprise, provides a better experience for people who are already interactive with GitHub Package Registry. And someone from the team was kind enough to share with me. I appreciate it. Some of the things that the team is working on for the pipeline, adding even more actions, so being able to close, reopen issues directly from the terminal, add labels, as I mentioned earlier, assign directly from creation. It's a cool project. It's an open source project. It doesn't hurt that it's maintained by a team from GitHub. So they're continuously chipping on it, and they're iterating on your feedback. So if you do give it a try, definitely go back and drop them a line. The team is amazing and responsive. You can check out more about the GitHub CLI project at github.com/CLI. I hope you are at least a little bit inspired to try it out. And that's it for me. And I'm sorry we ran over a little bit over time. I thank you all so very much for my time. I hope you take in one thing at least that you like, maybe not love, but at least like about the command line experience. Don't forget the man pages are your friend, of course, but realistically and honestly, for me at least, to have a solid foundation has allowed me to figure out what works best, what I can incorporate into my workflow. And even if that means not using any of the things that I showed you today, I definitely want you to just do what works the best for you. I'll be happy to share my slides via Twitter, and also I'm going to share some cheat sheets with the commands that we use today. My DMs are always open, so feel free to add me. And I have to give a shout out to the super talented Carlo Gilmar at Visual Partner, who created this beautiful slides, translated my ideas into the amazing graphics that you see. So I hope everyone has a beautiful, lovely rest of the week. And I haven't been able to read the chat very much, but I say JH. I'm married to a Welshman, so sometimes I pronounce my H's by H. I'm sorry, but any other questions, feel free to drop me a tweet.
Thanks for watching.